Well, the Lawrence Frank haters are getting cooked. Welcome into Clippers Talk. Here we go, Clips fans.
Clippers Talk with Adam Osland. After every game, download every pod. Clippers Talk's the name. He's a basketball talking golden god.
New episodes after every game on demand.
Follow Clippers Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Clippers.
Bradley Beal is officially a Clipper. The news came down about an hour ago. Good to be with you guys. I was at the doc. I'm with Doc Rivers at the Real Doctor. When the news broke, I'll be with you for about the next 20 minutes here. And yes, I will be calling some people out. Blow it up guy, that argument got blown up. Lakers front office sucks. They should fire Lawrence Frank guy. Now, you getting cooked now. That's over too. Like, this is you today.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked. I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked. I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
I've been telling you for years about L. Frank, one of the best in the game. Executive of the year back in 2020 for a reason. This man has been cooking, and he's cooking the haters right now too.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
If you were a Lawrence Frank hater, you better be converted over to this side now. It's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. Not only did he get Brooke Lopez, not only did he get John Collins, but now Bradley Beal is a Clipper. How about that? The reports were right, and it came from Shams Charania, who made it official just about an hour ago. I'll let you guys hear the news from Shams. It broke. Let me share the screen with you. Here was Shams Charania on the Pat McAfee Show.
Bradley Beal of the Phoenix Suns has reached agreement on a contract buyout with the Suns. He's giving back $13.9 million out of his $110 million contract. His representative, Mark Barrows, of Priority Sports, tells me the plan is for Bradley Beal now to sign a 2-year, $11 million deal to join the Los Angeles Clippers. So Brad Beal, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden will all team up together with the Clippers. And so he's giving up some money in this buyout with the Suns, but this now gives him an opportunity to compete for a championship, a better basketball fit for him. So he is set to join the Clippers as we are tweeting away here right now.
That baby Shams, way to walk and chew gum and talk and tweet at the same time. We appreciate the news break here. Congrats to Beal seemingly losing $2 million, but probably ending up where he wanted to be now.
All right. There it was. With UPMS for breaking the news with Shams Charania on his show, Pat McAfee Show. I'll be working with the OG Petros and Money PMS show today. Don McClain's in for Petros. If you're listening on AM 570 LA Sports, should be a good time. Of course, Don McClain, broadcaster with your LA Clippers. He'll be breaking down the situation. So you heard from Shams there about the contract. 2 years, $11 million, player option on the second year. Bradley Beal is in a prove-it situation. This is what it's come to for him. He gets bought out by a team that was highly dysfunctional the last couple of years in Phoenix. And you can make the argument Bradley Beal was a part of that. There were some instances where he was wondering about starting and what his role was. He didn't seem happy. Other guys there weren't happy. Too many variables for me to pin it on one guy. It just was a bad mix in Phoenix and didn't make a lot of sense from the beginning to have so much of that skill set overlap that they had between him, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. Well, now he has a much more clear role. Expect him to start. He'll be starting in place of Norman Powell. And with Norman Powell now in Miami, well, you know how that happened. The Clippers brought in John Collins to the front court. I expect him to start as well. So your new starting lineup, James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard at the 3, John Collins at the 4, Visa Zubats at the 5 is how it's looking. Our friend Justin Wilson at LA Clips Film is where you find him. Had a great post saying out Norman Powell, Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, Ben Simmons, and Amir Coffey in Bradley Beal, John Collins, Brooke Lopez, Chris Paul, maybe? Given what the LA Clippers had to work with to improve the roster, can't quibble with this offseason. Well done. Well done indeed. I would say the Clippers, who have been in a tough spot with not having their picks, and many people saying, oh, they should blow it up. How are you going to blow it up when you don't have your picks? Doesn't make sense. Never made sense. The blow it up talk, I hope, has ended. I don't think we'll be hearing from that guy anymore. I don't want to be hearing from, oh, Lawrence Frank isn't a good GM anymore. You got cooked again this summer.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
The Lawrence Frank haters are getting cooked. Everybody unanimously saying the Clippers A+ job this summer. Not only did they get Brooke Lopez, who the Lakers wanted, he didn't want to go there. They also got Bradley Beal, who the Lakers wanted, apparently. He wasn't that interested in going there. Don't tell me things aren't different in this organization with Steve Ballmer, this front office, this coaching staff, and this locker room. Shane Young, who covers the Suns, covers the NBA, said Bradley Beal the last 2 years in Phoenix, 56% from 2, 41% from 3, 90% at the free throw line, 56% on his drives. Some of the numbers when it comes to 2-point percentage and at the basket were career highs last year for Bradley Beal. I know what you're thinking. Oh, why couldn't they trade him then? The contract, $110 million over 2 years. Phoenix is likely going to stretch and waive, which means they're going to have over $19 million of dead cap money, just like Milwaukee does the next 5 years with Dame. They're going to have that with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal for $110 million over the next 2 years doesn't seem like great value. Bradley Beal for a little over $5 million this year, that's great value. That's a win. L. Frank haters can weep.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Y'all getting cooked right now. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. It took 2 guys away from the Lakers.
And I ain't worried about the mustard yellow Lakers. I ain't worried about none of them. The fakers, snakers, Lakers.
I'm not worried about them. I just think it's worth bringing up when that's part of the reporting going on right now. What else do I got for you here? We'll talk about some of the good, some of the bad, some of the concerns. CP3, is he on the way? Feels like it at the moment. Here's another great treat for you. Check this out. If you didn't know how much this front office has been cooking, well, Yossi Goslin, who I think is going to join the show at some point here, said the Clippers have now acquired Bradley Beal, John Collins, Brooke Lopez, Derek Jones Jr., Nico Batum, Chris Dunn. They couldn't complete these moves as an apron team if they re-signed Paul George to a max contract last season. They offered him the 150. They weren't going to give him the 210, 212. None of these moves happen if Paul George had returned to this team. Paul George, as our friend Justin Wilson said, turned into Beal, Collins, Lopez, DJ, Batum, and Dunn. Holy shit. Holy shit is right.
Woo!
I still got some love for PG-13. I hope he overcomes this recent knee injury. Had to have arthroscopic surgery on. I think that came out yesterday. But the Clippers obviously made the right move and really dodged a bullet. They're willing to do it for 150. 200? Nah, that wasn't happening. And here's the report in case you don't believe me. It comes from Brett Siegel of Clutch Points talking about the Lakers. He said, quote, Beal did not show a lot of interest in playing for the Lakers, despite the team holding extensive conversations with him and his representation, league sources told Clutch Points. Let's get to somebody else who's got some. Law, I didn't see it first, so sorry if you'd been waiting there, my friend. That's on me. I'll take the L, but really it's dubs all around on a day like this, where the Clippers bring in Bradley Beal, and hopefully now I'm on this headset. Here is Murray of The Athletic joining us on the move. Law, can you hear me?
One of us is first. Yeah, I can hear you now.
I got you. Law's in transition and transit, but Law is still working because
As always,
the grind does not stop for him. And we'll take the good information any way we can get it. Plane, trains, automobile, don't matter. All right, let's start with this.
I've been on all of them. Been on all of them the last 24 hours. I was watching. I was watching the Timber. I'm pretty sure I was watching Timberwolves versus Pistons and Thomas and Matt 24 hours ago. So,
you're in a whirlwind, so I appreciate you even more. Did you expect the news to come out today? Was this a foregone conclusion? Or, as I mentioned there, were there really other suitors that he was looking at that were a possibility for Bradley Beal?
I mean, I don't think the other suitors matter. I mean, James Harden wanted this once there was a possibility of a Suns buyout. I mean, I feel like James worked really hard on this. If you want to give any one person like credit for just working out, going over the top, it's James. And you know what? James is going to have to be the guy most responsible for working out on the court as well. But when it comes to recruitment, James went in, and I think that series against Denver, it moved a lot. I think the best thing for the Clippers was that they were fully healthy and got eliminated the way that they did, because then it was like, all right, like instead of the previous what if parade that you've got in the previous 4 years, it was more about action, and the action is just like you needed more front court size and more front court depth. You needed a guy who James was going to feel more comfortable with offensively than someone like Chris Dunn, and without giving up on Chris Dunn. Now you have that in Brad.
So Bradley Beal, sounds like you're assuming he's starting. He's not coming if he's not starting, right? That has to be part of the pitch to him.
Man, it's Bradley Beal. You saw what happened with Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? Like, Russell Westbrook, I mean, I think some of y'all saw my graphic. Russell Westbrook, I think a lot of people saw his Lakers experience and was like, Terrence Mann's going to continue to start, right? Bullshit. They signed that man and gave him the starting job right away. Despite whatever, hold on for a sec. Despite whatever you would think, as far as the front office was thinking or anything like that. It's the same thing here. Like, Brad is the 2025 what Russ was the 2023, man. It's actually funny how it correlates and works out. So they have to make this work. It's going to be James. It's going to be Brad. It's going to be Kawhi too. And I'm going to say that there's going to be some competition for that other spot. I mean, it makes sense that John would be that guy. But I think that, I wouldn't be surprised if Teron Lue comes around and says, we want some competition for camp. But, yeah, I think you got 4 guys who definitely are going to start, and then we can probably look at John Collins as a front runner for that last spot. But there's going to be some looks.
Is that about could there still be some defensive concerns if they go John Collins and Bradley Beal, and then you really only have two solidified defenders in the starting lineup with Kawhi and Ivica Zubac? There could be some concern.
I mean, I would be more than somewhat concerned. I think the coaching staff has its work cut out for them, both in terms of lineup and personnel, as well as scheme. You're not, that 5-man lineup on paper is outstanding from a talent perspective, and you got a lot of guys who can do things offensively. But even offensively, I think there are things that you're going to have to work out, have guys have to figure out. And I trust that Tyronn Lue will figure that out. I think a lot of people are trusting that Tyronn Lue and Jeff Van Gundy will figure out how to make those guys work defensively, at least to start halves and possibly finish games, whatever a game may need. The nice thing is it's not like this team lacks defensive personnel, but you're just going to have to do things differently than you did last year. I think people look at John, for instance, as a guy who is tall and athletic, and it's like, well, two things are going to have to be accounted for, and that is John laterally is not as strong as he is otherwise athletically, and just from an awareness standpoint, John's awareness defensively is just not always there. So that's going to be something that has to get worked on in camp, in the preseason, the start of the regular season, and so on and so forth. Same with Brad. I mean, I think Brad has shown that he can guard guys, he can compete against guys, but it's a mindset thing with him. Like, you're probably in a situation where Brad's more than likely going to be your point of attack defender to start games. He's probably going to be on point guard to start games. You're probably hiding James like you did 2 years ago. And, and this is obviously with the team fully healthy, which, that team has a lot of guys who've missed time. Bradley Beal included, John Collins included. I'm not as worried about John as I am about Brad. Brad's had more legitimate injuries that have kept him out, but 5-man lineups are only accounting for when you're at your best from a physical standpoint, and the Clippers are going to not be at their best often. So there's that part too. You're just going to have to line up differently. So it is a concern. It's a consideration. That's not to say I didn't think they're going to be bad defensively. It's just that the way that team had to play last year, they played desperate. They played with guys who were defense first. These guys aren't defense first guys, so it's going to look different.
Where is Bradley Beal at in his career at this point athletically? He just turned 32 in late June. What have you seen from him the last couple of years with the Phoenix Suns, and reasons it didn't work there and why it can work with the Clippers?
Yeah, well, that's a pretty loaded statement. I will say Brad's a year younger than Norman Powell, but I think not a year, sorry, a month. They were born the same year. So you're not really getting that much younger. You're getting a month younger, but Brad has a lot more miles on his tires because he became a pro 3 years earlier. Brad was a one and done out of Florida, whereas Norm stayed in college all 4 years. And obviously, Brad's played heavy minutes in the NBA with a heavy workload, whereas Norm was, a bench player for most of his career in Toronto, and then obviously started in Portland, but was on and off the bench here with the Clippers. So Brad is, if you all had concerns about Norm's durability and availability, Brad's a step below that. Like, Brad's missed a ton of time. I wrote it in our story. Brad's missed an average of 33 games a year the last 4 seasons. It would be a big surprise if Brad can play 60 games next year, which is what Norman played last season. You have to account for Brad possibly missing time. So there is that concern. Athletically, though, Brad, I'm not as discouraged there. The injuries aren't great. Like, Brad's had some concerning injuries. A back problem has been a part of that. So getting him right is going to be key, but something that our guy at the Athletic, Brett Katz, brought up. Just like John Wall came to the Clippers and Jesse Phillips, part of the Clippers Met staff, who used to be in Washington, was here. Jesse is still here, and so Brad does have somebody a prior relationship with somebody already on the medical team here at the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers, I think they had a pretty damn good year as far as preventing injury as well as getting guys healthy. Like they've gotten praise from other teams with how they've handled their guys over the last year. So I think that that's a good thing that Brad has that familiarity with somebody. He will get familiar with the team, and I think he's at least as athletic as Norm is. I think that was a big concern that I had, that Norm's still pretty athletic, but Brad's at least as good athletically there. I think the bigger thing is Brad's a little smaller than Norm. Arms aren't as long. Still very good wingspan, but Norm's wingspan is special. Brad's a little bit shorter than that. A little shorter in height. A little bit slighter in body. It just limits who you want Brad guarding. I don't think you're getting better defensively with Bradley Beal. Norm, at least you could tell him guard, participate defensively, and you saw Norm can do that at least. Brad has to show that he can do that, and so there's definitely physical concerns, but for me, it's more about his durability more than his athleticism.
What do you think James Harden said to him for why he should come to the Clippers? And does that alleviate any locker room concerns because he already has familiarity with him?
Man, I think the simple thing is that the Clippers have going on. There is a culture with the Clippers that the Suns don't really have. The Clippers have their stuff together. How many head coaches have the Suns fired? The Suns just had a front office change. The Suns ownership situation is different than the Clippers ownership situation. James can speak on all of that. James can speak on what he left in Philadelphia, as far as all of those things, and the Clippers just have a business-like approach to things, whereas the Suns, again, you see what it is with Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
I think for James, again, James has had his challenges the last few years, and I think James is a lot happier now than he was the last few years. I think Brad needs to see that happiness. Brad hasn't had meaningful things to play for in a while. I think he came to Phoenix thinking he was going to get that and was quickly dismayed with how things fell apart there. The Clippers aren't exactly a team where guys get there and things fall apart. That just hasn't really happened. Even though things haven't always worked out at the end for some guys, that's not to say that that's been their experience in total. The Clippers do have a pretty good culture where guys are happy. Guys know what their expectations are. The communication for what those expectations are is usually holds up. Brad's seen what it can be like in Washington and what it can be like in Phoenix, what it could be like in other places that he didn't choose to go to. So I don't think the conversation is that difficult. And the fact that James is the one putting himself out there to make it, I think that is. I think that's
What's his number
part.
one skill with Bradley Beal that the Clippers are going to tap into to help increase their ceiling?
I think it's more of a 1A, 1B thing. Hold on. I'm just trying to make sure.
Lon Murray is with the. He's still here. He's
I'm
still
still
here.
here.
He's just got.
I'm still here.
He's walking now.
I'm just making moves,
It's impressive.
Your question.
What's that number one skill that he has that they want to tap into to increase their ceiling?
Yeah, I think it's more of a 1A, 1B. The first thing is complementary shooting in the lineup. So, and I've mentioned this before already with you. Chris Dunn being guarded the way he was in the playoffs, the biggest but the guy who's most affected and just most concerned about that was James Harden. James needed space, and the reason Chris was out there as much as he was because of Chris Dunn's ball handling. Well, Brad is about where you would want Chris to be from a ball handling standpoint, secondary ball handling, secondary playmaking. Norman Powell is more of a team or kind of an off-ball kind of player. Because offensively, you got your primary ball handler, right? And then you got the guy who's got to relieve him. That's why you have two guards. They didn't treat Norm like a guard in that sense. They treated Chris like that. Chris was the release valve. You saw Chris bring the ball up often against teams that pressed him a lot. Adam, you and I, all season, especially when Kawhi came back, because obviously before Kawhi came back, Chris and DJ were starting together. Once Kawhi came back, the question was who starts between Chris and DJ, right? And we would always say, well, Chris is going to start against the teams that press, that force turnovers, that cause problems for James as a ball handler. You're hoping that you addressing that part of it, that you can have a guy who's confident as a shooter in Brad, who can help handle the basketball without having Kawhi do that. Like just focus on Kawhi being your number one half court option in the half court and everything, and to go about it that way. So it's like the Clippers have been saying all season, we need ball handling help in addition to front court help. The front court help was early, and they hit that multiple times, and they said, hey, we need shooting. Well, shooting came in the form of everybody that they added. They got a good center who can shoot. They got a good forward who can shoot. Now they have a good guard who can shoot. That's what Bradley Beal is here for. Bradley is here to enhance, make the Clippers more difficult to guard.
Last one for you here, Law. You mentioned ball handling. Is CP3 on the way? Does this move set up the next one with him coming?
Really can't corroborate that right now. It just doesn't make sense. So I was told that Bogdanovic is expected to be with this team. And also that this team would be comfortable with Chris Dunn being your nominal backup point guard, if you want to call it that. Like, Chris didn't play that role often last year. Chris started a ton of games. He basically was in the starting five. And obviously Chris wasn't playing a lot of point guard last year. He was the secondary guy to James. And he was basically treated like a wing. Like, I refer to Chris Dunn as a small forward often because of his defensive role and because of his relative off-ball role. Like, he was a secondary playmaker, but starting with Norman Powell and James Harden, Chris wasn't really a point guard. I think Chris is going to be your natural backup point guard. Bogey is going to have a role in the second unit as your shot creator, because we all know Chris is not the most aggressive player offensively. Bogey showed that he has the ability to be that big ball handler that the Clippers prefer. And then you still have Derrick Jones Jr. and Brook Lopez in that second unit. Nico Batum, and the nights you need him, he's there, and the nights you don't play him as often. I think that would be up to Chris. I don't think the Clippers are really tripping right now. Like, you still have roster spots on Kobe Brown, Giannis Cody Niederhauser, Cam Christie. That's 13. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but that's 13 right there. We'll see what happens with Jordan Miller, and so if you sign Chris, that would be 14 with an open roster spot, not including Miller, and yeah, like Chris Paul, the obvious is that he's a franchise legend. Can take care of the basketball, can shoot, can make plays defensively, all that. That's the obvious. The other side is the Clippers just haven't. It's not like they're saying, "No, we're totally not doing this." It's just they point out that Chris is small, man. Like, he's small, he's old. Like, that doesn't go with who else is there. Like, there's just like where are the minutes going to come from, right? So we gotta see. We got to see, but that's not something that let's just put it this way. I'm probably going to update the graphic in the next 48 hours. I'm not going to have any like spots for Chris Paul in it. So, yeah, I would put that on the doubtful side of 50-50.
Okay, quickly, how much better is this team right now than last year's team?
How much better? That's a hell of a question. I mean, I think it's better.
Does it put them
But
into a different tier in the West?
does it put them into a different tier in the West? I am willing to say yes. Let's just say yes, because I think the big thing is the playoffs. This is a better playoff team. This is a better playoff roster than the team they had last year. And I think people are just going to have to, y'all are going to have to be patient with me on this one. It's going to be a lot of adjustments that need to be made. Like
A lot of adjustments.
A lot of adjustments need to be made, man, on both ends of the floor. And don't be surprised if there are some growing pains that come with that. And so they need the regular season to get these guys on the same page. These guys need to see some success with that. And then there's a lot of guys who might not, they might be expiring contracts. So it's going to be, man, that part is going to, and the West is the West. Like, you can be in a different tier and you can see that the wins are going to be hard to come by, right? So that's going to be the thing that has to be under consideration. I'm not going to, like, they won 50 games, and it was a huge accomplishment to do that. This team probably can win 55 games, but don't be surprised if things are hard. I don't think the Clippers are going to be coming out killing teams or anything like that. There's just too much to work on both ends of the floor, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Bit of an adjustment period coming, Clipper Nation, but there's a lot of talent there. He's La Murray of The Athletic. Follow him at La Murray, TheNU. Make sure to subscribe right now so you can be reading his newest article. Bradley Beal, Suns agree to contract buyout. Guard plans to join Clippers. Sources. And he wrote that with Doug Haller and Fred Katz. La, great work, great analysis. Appreciate you coming on Clippers Talk, my friend. And he's gone. La Murray is making moves. He's on the run. Clippers trying to run LA. I like it. I love the move. Give L. Frank his flowers. Make the apology as loud as the disrespect was. Show James Harden some love too. Helping be a mediary or at least somebody that was in the ear of Bradley Beal of why you should be a Clipper. He's a recruiter. All right, I'm Adam Osland. I appreciate you guys. Maybe I'll do another show around 5. We'll see. There could be more news. This has been another edition, a breaking news edition of Clippers Talk.